Today is going to be a treat. I've got Chantry Abbott on with me from St. George, Utah, a second home community with only 200,000 people in his county. And here's the cool thing. Guild Mortgage now has 20% market share in this tiny town. There will be 6 President Club winners from the same company. So if you've ever thought, oh, I'm competing too much, or there's not enough, or there's too many people that I have to run up against, Chantry and all the people in St. George blow that to shreds, prove that you can have a real collaboration. And today we're going to get into the weeds a little bit on how Chantry wins with the borrowers in his own strength, how he came from burnout to joy again in his business. Chantry, it's just a real pleasure. I've gotten to be in the same region as you. I've watched you grow. I've spoken on many stages with you. You came out to Slay with Shay and talked to us about rate shoppers. So I know we're going to go many places today, but I just want to say thank you for being a great teammate, someone that makes me want to step up my game. I got another 40-year-old dad out there with a 10-year-old and 5-year-old who really is engaged in all parts of his life. You're spiritually fit, you're beautiful in your marriage, you're physically fit, and you're just consistent. It's fun to watch you year after year grow. You're on track to do over $55 million in production this year, which is a 22% gain over last. And I don't know if you know this, but 23 to 24, mister, you went from 112 units to 142 units, 27% growth, again, in a tiny market. So congrats on your success, and I'm excited to break it down.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You probably don't know this, but you're like one of the main reasons we joined Guild 10 years ago. I don't know if you remember, we went to the Core Summit.
Yep.
And we were interviewing. We essentially went to interview 3, we spent like $5,000 a person per ticket, 2 of us. And we were basically like, okay, these are one of the 3 companies we're going to go to. Let's just meet with every single person at these 3 companies we can get our hands on and see who's the happiest.
And was I one of the happiest? Is that why we won?
You were. Yeah. And you actually drug us around and introduced us to 3 or 4 other people at Guild too.
That's fun. And then you and Steve actually flew to Reno and did a site visit and looked under the hood even further, right?
We did. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you did. And I'm so glad that I won the happiest award at the time. So Chantry, you've been through many phases. You know, what you were sharing with me offline is that you started in this business just straight up commission LO, don't have any experience, walking out there with a rate sheet and a phone book, or as we would say, and then quickly got swooped up by your branch manager to say, I need you to partner with me. I am not a technician, and I need a guy who can really run the business, and let's grow this thing together. That same guy that you went to the Core Summit with, who signed up for coaching, gosh, how we love Mr. Steve Stout. And you spent kind of 6 or 7 years in the background meeting with clients and running the business until Steve's wife got sick and it was ready to retire. And you became overnight the rainmaker and the branch manager at the same time. So talk to me about that transition of having to now be the rainmaker, and how did you find success in your own way? Because you and Steve are very different people.
Yeah, and it was January 1st, 2022 is when I officially became the branch manager too. So that was a really fun time to have to be in charge of a P&L.
Oh no. It was a bad time.
Yeah. So a lot of transition. I think you had mentioned that my business personally probably hit its lowest level in 22 because I was just forced into like, how do we make this branch work? How do I bring up loan officers? Who do I need to let go? And I spent way more time working on getting the branch right side than I did my personal production. Big learning curve, obviously. I had quite a bit of experience from Steve, but it's totally different when you're the only one pulling the trigger. And I just think what we've done as a branch, like we're very consistent. We've had a lot of the same people have worked together for 10 plus years. So like when we go, we've been at Guild, it'll be 10 years now. And just a lot of consistency with processors and some loan officers that have been with us forever. And I just think we show up. We don't do anything fancy. You know what I mean? We just show up every day.
Can you tell me about the plateful of grateful that you guys do in your branch?
Yeah. So once a quarter, we take everybody, all the customers and the real estate agents that we had a closing with in the previous quarter. And we invite them to just come have lunch. We have an open house luncheon at our office. It's a really good excuse to meet some of those agents. And we actually do have some clients that come, but it's a really good excuse to meet some of those agents that you've done a transaction with, but you never really got to meet with them or talk about that. And if we can get the client to agree to come, it is super easy call to make to say, hey, Mr. and Miss Realtor, we had a great closing. Your buying client, the Smith family, is going to come to our luncheon next week at noon. We'd love to have you there as well. And it just kind of becomes this little kumbaya thing. But we've picked up a lot of listing agents from it because our team is consistent and they do a good job and they communicate and they close on time and have docs the title early. So it really is just an excuse for myself and the other loan officers to have some kind of forced prospecting.
That's fantastic. So I want to dig into your archetype. You and I have been together for 10 years and we've been coaching inside of Elevate Coaching at Guild and have been coached. But obviously this Shayla's Rainmaker archetype was a whole new development. What kind of happened for you as you've taken the archetype and realized how it works into your business?
So in that transitionary time of when I became branch manager in 2022, I actually brought on a guy to help me be what I'd call my production partner. And what that meant is he was meeting with probably 60, 70% of our clients. And I went from meeting with 100% of the clients. So that was a pretty big transition for our agents. I'm sure we lost some agents, but maybe we gained some too. And worked really hard on the branch 22 and 23. And I just really kind of started getting burned out with my personal production. It quit being fun. I wasn't like in the game anymore. It just wasn't me. And I didn't know this until I took your test a month or so ago. But it's because I got myself out of, so I'm a trust builder technician, 50-50 each. And so I'm like zero marketer, networker.
Yep.
And I put him in the production partner role and put myself in the marketer networker role. And I'm the worst person in the world to be in the marketer networker role. And I didn't know that at the time. And I didn't know why I was like not having fun anymore. Because to me, it's still got to be kind of fun, like a challenge and fun. And like, I love looking at conversion numbers and how many leads can I get that turn into a meeting and how many meetings can I get that turn into a locked loan and how many loans can I lock without having any concessions. And I lost all that. And I didn't know I had lost all that, but I got completely away from what my strengths were. And I just lost my huge drive. And so I really started discovering like, okay, I've got to get back into what I enjoy doing. So this was probably, middle to end of last year. And then fast forward to like February of this year, because of a series of unforeseen events, the production partner is no longer with me. And so I basically got thrust right back into the loan officer role. And I've honestly been having a blast for like the last 3-4 months. I love it.
You love it. And you're competing again. So where do you get that competitive spirit? Like what part of you is it a geeky, nerdy part of you? What would you call it?
I love it. Maybe it's the technician. I love efficiencies.
Yep.
So like if there's people like watching a lot of the superstars in your group and I'm like, they're kicking my butt in conversion, that really bothers me. That actually bothers me more than them doing more business than me. Because some don't, but I don't work very rarely do I work 40 hours a week. So to me, it's all about, I want to have the most efficient mortgage business. I don't want to do the most business. I want to be the most efficient, which is highly referred leads, high lead conversion, hold price, stuff like that.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy we're going down this path because winning is different for everybody. Some people want to be the most famous. Some people want to be the most recognized. Some people want to have the most units. Some people might want to have the most profitability, right? You get to define what makes this fun for you and what your scoreboard is. So I'm assuming when you are looking at people in my group or even the larger Elevate group, you're talking about these dashboards. So I want to know, like, do you have a dashboard built with your hit list or people you respect and you're constantly watching their conversion numbers, or how do you stay juiced up about it?
Probably not well enough, but that would be a great idea if I was able to check in with them all the time. But I talk to them all the time, or I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, so I get what they're saying on here, but I don't actually have a dashboard, but that's a great idea. I should.
Okay, Chantry, I'm adding you to my dashboard because I know some of my team is super competitive and they're going to be like, oh boy, we got to watch Chantry now.
Yeah.
This is good.
Love it.
Well, let's talk about how you've used Trust Builder, because when I look at the two archetypes, one really typically opens the door. It's what you need for scaling the business because, as trust builders and technicians, you can often get very comfortable with a small group of people referring you. And you can often sit behind your desk and never get out and meet new people, right? So I want to talk about strategies of how you've used these to actually expand your network, especially in a small town. Last year, you had 33 different agents refer you a closing. And that's pretty remarkable to close 145 deals, by the way, Chantry. So if you want to nod for your efficiency, I'm seeing a lot of people doing that kind of volume have 70 different agents referring them. So cool. I'd like to know how you combine that to get the scale and continual growth you've been getting.
Yeah, I think for me, what I've learned is I have to have, I won't naturally just go network, and I'm not going to naturally just post on social media. So I'm looking for kind of like built-in forced opportunities for me to go show my technical skill. And so I love working with the real estate teams. I've got a couple teams in my market that I love working with them. I'm super good friends with the team leaders. I train their new agents a lot. I do CE classes for them, teaching Mortgage 101. But the most important thing is I'm in their weekly team. I'm in their team meeting one time a week where I can bring something of technical skill. For me to pick up the phone and call 40 realtors or to go to a real estate agent event and network and do all that, it's just not me. I'm just not going to do it. But if I can force myself to get into a room with 10 agents, I feel like I can show our skill and I can show them how to have a higher conversion, and I can talk about cool programs or how we've saved deals. And so I've just got to make sure that I'm not getting too stuck behind my desk and I'm having those forced prospecting opportunities, I guess you call it.
Fantastic. So tell me about this working 32 hours a week and still growing 20% year over year. Had you always worked 32 hours? Have you always been Mr. Efficient, or was there a life change or something that allowed you to get down to 32 hours?
Yes. 7 or 8 years ago, right when our first was little, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was working almost every Saturday for at least half a day. Very rarely did I not have a day that I'd work. Like 10 years ago, we went to Hawaii and I probably put in 40 hours a week in Hawaii.
Wow.
And a lot of it was, I think part of my problem is my archetype is you're kind of a control freak. And so it was hard for me to grow teammates to do it better than me. But I've got a gal with me now that the core term would be an LP1, but she's really what I call a preapproval specialist.
Okay.
I hired her 11 years ago. She knows everything I know about qualifying a borrower and more, and that's all she does. And that's been really comforting for me that I've really got to the point where I don't even want to do an income count because I literally trust hers better.
Wow. And when you hired her, did she have any experience?
0.
Okay. So what I'm noting in terms of the timeline, she's been on your team 11 years, but it's only been about 7 or 8 years that you brought your hours down. So did it take you 3 years to finally trust her and delegate that all the way? Or did you get an ultimatum? Or in hindsight, could you have done it earlier?
In hindsight, we had other good people at our branch and I probably could have done it earlier. But again, I think I just go back to that mentality of like, well, I can do it better than them. And the honest truth is I probably couldn't have. And it would take me 3 days to get to it. That if I would have let go of that a long time ago, I probably would have been further along for sure.
When did you start getting coached?
Well, I mean, I basically off and on was coached via the core for a little bit in about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And then whatever the first semester guild was, I jumped on and started getting coached inside of the guild's Elevate. So what's that been? 7 years, maybe?
Yeah,
5?
we started Elevate, I believe, in 2018. So we're on 7 years. So isn't it kind of interesting that right about 7 years ago, you started really leaning into delegation? It might have been the fact that a coach was working with you every 2 weeks to take those baby steps. The other thing I like to note is there's a difference, right, between getting coached in proximity, meaning that Steve was the student and you were behind Steve, versus you're the student and you're reporting your numbers. Can you speak to the difference there?
Well, it's just, I guess it's an accountability measure. I wasn't having to show up on the core calls and talk about my lead tracker and my closings. Even though I cared, there wasn't that high accountability to me. I wanted him to be happy and I wanted it to be like we were doing a good job, but I didn't have to show up on those calls and face the music if it wasn't how we were supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Where now, So I'm a coach at Elevate. The reason I'm super passionate about coaching. I talk about the real estate teams. I'm really passionate about coaching these new agents, not only technical mortgage skills, but sales skills. And so I love holding students' hands through that journey of like, you think about where you're at or where I'm at. Like I could have never got to where I wanted to be without somebody holding my hand and coaching me. And so I just want to be that for somebody. But the most important thing that happens in Elevate is that if you're a coach, you have to step it up. You can't show up on a coaching group and you're getting your butt kicked.
Right.
So that's my biggest level of accountability, even more than being a student.
And being a branch manager. So you stepped into a wall of accountability. You became coached. Then you are a coach. So you have your students all looking at you and it's fully transparent on a dashboard. And then being a branch manager, now you got to lead the charge that way.
And I'm thinking back actually. So Guild, we do it in 2 semesters, right? The coaching. This semester, I'm coaching what we call level 2 prospecting. These are mostly people that are in the 2 or 3 loan a month range and would like to get to 5 or 6. That's what my goal is, to help them get to there. But when I first jumped in, they put me in what's called level 4, which is all branch managers, President's Club winners, 40, 50, $60 million producers. And that was the fall of 2024. So the truth is, that's probably why I had an uptick in my production, because I really started caring a lot more about my numbers once I was coaching versus just being coached. And it was actually really intimidating too. You have 5 or 6 people in your coaching call that are all great. It's like I have to show up really high value for them, so it's not a waste of their time.
And in that, you found your joy again. You started figuring out like, wait, I got too far away from the technical part of the job. I like that part. It feeds me. It juices me up. And you made a switch and got back into it.
Yes.
So I love that you talked about holding people's hand, because I think trust builders do this really, really well. And trust builders often think that everyone does that, or everyone likes to do that, or that's natural for people. And I will tell you, it is not. I am not a trust builder. I am a networker technician. So like you, I like to geek out and get in there, and I'm competitive, and I want efficiency as well. But the way I'm going to keep filling the funnel is that I can work large groups and I can go out and network. I don't convert until I get that one-on-one where I really build trust, but I don't stay in that for very long. I go back and keep staying high level in the networking. That's just how I function, how I work. And so that's why finding a coach like you that's going to show up in a team meeting with new agents and really cares to see them successful and has the patience is so freaking valuable for all of you trust builders. How did you feel like worthy of teaching agents sales skills? So many people are like, well, who am I? They've got imposter syndrome. I've never been an agent. I've never been on a listing appointment. I've never really been in professional sales. Where did you get your sales skills? And then where did you start feeling comfortable teaching it?
Yeah, I learned a handful of years ago that I want to have the potential to be a better realtor than 90% of the realtors in terms of sales skills. And so I listen to real estate podcasts and read real estate books and real estate YouTube almost as often, maybe even more than I listen to mortgage coaching. Because I want to be able to find a nugget that I can take to them. I want to find like the coolest, latest tactic that I can bring to them. So I feel like I probably study real estate sales more than 90% of them. This
is fascinating. What would have been some of your favorite books that you repeat or go back over and over and again?
The Keller Williams ones are always good. Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Shift. Those 2 are rad. I listen to the guy that's the owner of Reels podcast every time it comes out right now. Really good. Sharant Shrivastava. He's just great sales, super simple. He just really talks to me. I've gone to some like real estate agent conferences. So 2 years ago, I went to this like 4-day thing in Phoenix that it was just for real estate agents, but I went just to learn the real estate side of it. And it's mostly the real estate sales skills, not the technical being a realtor skills. It's the sales skills. So I guess that's probably where I get the confidence is I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm forcing myself to be learning and growing and being coached at a higher level than even they are.
Fantastic. You talked about having real estate partners watch your pre-approval meetings. How do you do that? What does that look like? And how has that helped your business?
So I pretty much run my business. And I truly think this is one of the main things I figured out how to not have to work all the time is that I don't ever chase the client. I have somebody on my team. So the way it works is the first thing when we get a lead, if it's text to me, I send it to my gal that just kind of takes care of our database. She makes sure they're in there. She makes sure that they're getting followed up on. And her only goal the very first time is to get a 15-minute phone call on my calendar with them. The second thing is after that phone call, we're going to get an in-person meeting. So my team knows if I've met with somebody or not in person. Now, if they're not local, we will do Zoom, but I do very few Zoom. It's almost all in person. And that's probably just the beauty of having a small network or small market. But I will tell you, though, we have tons of people. Like I'm meeting a guy, I'm looking at my calendar. I'm meeting a guy tomorrow that's from Pennsylvania, and he's here. And so I found out when he was going to be here. And I said, when are you going to be here looking at houses? I'd love to meet you. And a lot of times I'll actually go, or at least offer the opportunity to go to the real estate agent's office.
You really believe in this belly to belly, face to face interaction.
Yeah. And I already pretty much my goal is I've really got them pre-approved before that meeting. So then that meeting becomes valuable. That meeting becomes max price, monthly payment, strategies for seller concessions. I always tell a story about how I am so passionate about home ownership and the long term. And I tell a few stories and just try to get them pumped to go out there, and now's a good time to buy. And the agents can see that. So I think the agents see like, oh, this isn't like a technical doing the loan meeting. This is like a conversion meeting almost.
So what's the gal's name that's been with you 11 years?
Shaylee.
Shaylee? I love her name, of course. So Shaylee, is she the lead admin or LP1 that's chasing the leads and getting that 15-minute meeting booked? Is she the same one that's doing the pre-approval behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is why you call her the pre-approval specialist. So this 15-minute phone call that you do, which you're trying to get her to lock down on your calendar right away, what do you do on that 15-minute versus what do you say is the next step to position for the in-person?
Mm-hmm. So this is ideal is 15-minute phone call that I'm just really hopes and dreams and tell me about your income and what do you got for assets and what are you hoping this looks like and how quick do you want all this to come together? And then at the end of it, I say, well, based on everything you told me, I feel like we have a pretty good chance of helping you. The next step is I need to get a loan application from you. We can do that over the phone, but I have found that it puts you under a lot of pressure and you're not going to know some of the dates. And so if you're not very good on a computer, let's do it over the phone. But if you're sufficient on a computer, why don't I send you a link and then you can fill it out? It's going to take you 15 minutes. And when they agree to do that, I say, and then we're going to have a little homework for you. You're going to fill out the application. We're going to go in there and create you a docs list. And I want to have all their documents to me about 3 business days before I'm meeting with them so that my pre-approval specialist can have reviewed everything, ran AUS all different ways. Can they do 3% or 5% or whatever the scenario is? So when they come into the meeting with me, it's not like I'm looking at pay stubs. I'm like, you're pre-approved. And I really very rarely will give a pre-approval letter without them have met with me.
Without them meeting with you.
And I just tell them it's just part of the deal. We've got you pre-approved. What I want to do is sit down and go over your pre-approval and your numbers and your options and how the market's working and how we can win. And the thing that most loan officers make the mistake of, though, is they'll send them a link to fill out an online application and they'll just kind of leave this nebulous date out there of when they're going to circle back around.
Okay.
So what I do is on that first 15-minute call, I am scheduling my face-to-face meeting with them. I'm just making it very clear to them that like, I want to have all your stuff 3 days in advance. So I get a commitment that's like, when could you spend 15 minutes filling out an online app? And here's what I'm going to need from you. And it's, tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, simple stuff. When do you think you could have all that to me by? And if they say, oh, by tomorrow night, I say, cool. So I like to have 3 business days so I can meet you as early as Monday. Would that work? Monday or Tuesday or pick a time, right? So we're already scheduling a meeting and it makes them, in my opinion, it's way increases the conversion because they know they've got a deadline. They can't just put me off for 4 days because they'll be really embarrassed when the appointment comes around and they haven't done their homework.
Fantastic. I love so much about that. What I find is a lot of loan officers feel like everything is a rush. Like when they get this lead right now, the thought or the expectation in their mind is that they're going to drop everything, take a handwritten app over the phone because they're afraid to lose them when they send them the online, and then literally get a pre-approval letter in the realtor's hands tonight by 9 p.m. And so they're kind of like the client is chasing them around. You seem to not feel like they're in such a rush, and you've trained your realtors that this is your process. How did you get around that mental shift?
It's still you're still constantly coaching, and that's the one challenge of me. I work with a couple teams that have really new agents, and so they're so excited when they get a lead. They want to just go out there, but it never ends up being a good client experience. Very rarely do you decide to buy a house and 2 days later you're buying a house. Like, let's plan, let's do this the right way. It doesn't even mean you're going to be in a house any later. It just means we're going to do some of these steps before we go out looking. I can't have you go look at a house and you don't know what your payment is, or do you need closing costs, or there's no point in even going. And the truth is, the real estate agents are just wasting so much of their time having a maximum level of urgency of you just got to go do what the client wants you to do. We found that when I set an appointment with them, even if I always ask them, like, is this going to be soon enough? Are we good here? Like, based on your goals? And usually they're fine. The clients only have urgency, in my opinion, because the agents have maximum urgency. So when I tell the client this is the process, they're like, sweet, appointment's booked for next week. I'm moving forward. You know what I mean? We're taking the next steps. So that's why I think it's just super important to get the phone call on the calendar. And then during that phone call, you get the meeting on the calendar, and they just feel like they're rocking along just fine. And it doesn't matter. Like, a normal loan takes 30 days to close. What if we told every borrower it took 45 days to close? Would that really matter?
No, they would just plan accordingly, right?
And just plan accordingly. Not that I want to close every deal. Like, we try to close deals fast, right? Because the real estate community cares. But the truth is, people don't really care how fast it is. They would much rather it's done right.
Done right. That's great. Is it just you and Shaylee, or anybody else on your team?
I've actually recently got this gal named Ashley who's been with us a long time, and she's been kind of a hybrid processing assistant, LP1, bounced around from a few roles. She's actually really great with technology. She's really great with building reports. She's really great with people, but she doesn't like Shaylee just wants to spend all day behind her desk looking at income calcs. Ashley's not like that. She's more out there, techie, have fun, bubbly. And so she does kind of a hybrid LP1 role for me. And then she does help some other people in the branch. Like, if we're really busy, she knows how to order appraisals. She knows how to kind of do almost everything. Like, I just barely met with some folks that wanted to do a $50,000 HELOAN just like an hour before this call. And I in Salesforce, I tag her and I say they want to do this. And so she's going to copy the app over, pull credit, and pull an AVM for me.
Great. Because
and that's kind of new. She's been with us for a long time, but I actually let some other loan officers use her. And they kind of haven't been busy enough. And so I'm like, you're great. Come back. I'd love to have you. And so this has just been within the last few weeks, actually, that she's helping it all.
Cool. Well, it's interesting that you are averaging over 10, 12 deals a month in 2025, stepping fully back into the pre-approval role, doing the technical work, and still working 32 hours a week, essentially with one person. So I think what you're demonstrating is that when you have a way, you have a process, and you're confident in your process, like, it's not so hair on fire, everything's chaotic, you're afraid to lose a deal. You're also meeting with people in person. And I hear so many limiting beliefs and stories about nobody wants to meet in person. Everybody needs a pre-approval in 10 minutes. And they're always shopping me. So one of the killer presentations you did at Slay with Shay was about this debrief. Once you've lost a client to a rate shopper, you go back through your checklist and say, well, did I do my steps? Did I really follow my process? Rather than taking it personally, there's a process that allows for maximum conversion and trust. And you being a trust builder and a technician, you've built this process. Can you talk to us about that debrief and what you would consider is the perfect process that allows you to convert at a really high level with rate shoppers?
Absolutely. The number one thing is having the in-person or Zoom meeting. The number two thing is having maximum education around all of their loan options. So I'm a mortgage coach user. No one doesn't every one of my clients gets mortgage coach, in-depth, sit down, let's review it. Let's go over cash to close, numbers. And I think the truth is, I think it just makes them feel comfortable. I don't think they actually rate shop us because they want to find the better rate. They just want to feel safe. They want to feel like they're taken care of and that I'm looking out for their best interest. And you get probably 10% of people that just have to have the lowest rate, but the other 90%, they really don't care. So they don't know what else to do besides just go get a few quotes, because that's just like that's if you Googled it, that's what it says to do. But once you've met with them and you've gone over all those things and you show them our rate sheet and fully transparent, it just becomes irrelevant because they know. I want to make sure they know if you're driving down the highway and you see a billboard that has a really low rate offer, here's what it means. Mm-hmm. And I think once they get that and I say, look, we shop for you. We have all kinds of programs. We have all kinds of rates. So where I got that debrief from, I love Navy SEALs for one. I went to a shooting thing that had one of the guys that was supposedly took down Osama bin Laden, and he was on that helicopter that crashed. And I just got really passionate about Navy SEALs 5 years ago. And so we do a debrief where if the loan officers come to me and they either lost the deal or they're asking me for a giant subsidy, I can go through and ask them if they've done these few things. Did you talk to them on the phone? Did you get them pre-approved? Did you meet with them? Did you invite the realtor to the meeting? Did you ever send any follow-ups after the meeting? So I think that's the other thing we make a mistake if you're talking about the perfect process. I've gotten really good at, I will go through every meeting I had yesterday and I will call them, or at least at a bare minimum, text them. And I actually learned that because somebody was telling me about, they went to a doctor. They went to a doctor for something quite routine, very high-end doctor. And the next day, the doctor's on the phone going, hey, I know we went over a lot of things in the meeting. Are you still feeling good about our plan? And they're like, it was just unbelievable service. And it's like, how hard is that to make a 5-minute phone call and to say, hey, it was super great to meet with you guys. I know we went over a whole bunch of stuff. Are you guys still comfortable? Is there anything else I can provide to you? And I think most of us just don't even do that.
Yep.
If I go through the 4 or 5 things, I can tell why they got rate shopped. And I do it to myself every once in a while. I'll get out of my system. I'm busy. It's a weekend and my kid's soccer game. I'm like, fine, here you go. They're going to rate shop me.
Yeah, because you didn't build the trust and you didn't follow the process that makes people feel safe, right? You have the steps. Let's talk about Mortgage Coach, because we've got it all integrated into our system. And even still, it's easier and easier to build total cost analysis and to build a TCA. But change is difficult for people, or people have blocks about technology. How long has it taken you to learn it? How do you train your people on it? What is the real learning curve to using it and mastering it? And is it worth it?
It's my number one tool, first of all. I actually didn't use it because I was used to the face-to-face appointments. But then in 2021, I knew about it the whole time and I knew it was great, but I'm like, my system works. I don't know that I need it. 2021 happened. And then all of a sudden the face-to-face appointments got really difficult. And that was completely out of my business structure. I met with everybody face-to-face, and then I had to go to not meeting anybody face-to-face. And so for me, a mortgage coach was the next closest thing, because it integrates, those of you that don't know, it integrates the video really well. You can kind of do like a live demonstration. You can share your screen if you want. You can text it in an app. And so for me, it was just the best way to do that. And then the loan officers in our branch, we've kind of just made it you have to do it kind of thing. Because I have found that loan officers will come to me and they got rate shopped. And I'm like, did you give them a mortgage coach with options? And they're like, no, I didn't have time. It's like, well, yeah, of course they shopped you. They had no idea that they even had rate choices.
Right.
And I don't think the learning curve's that hard. Honestly, I think it's one of the easiest things that you can pick up.
So how many loan officers do you have in your branch now, Chantry?
I think we have 9 individual, on their own.
Wow.
Loan officers, counting me.
That's fantastic. So you lead 8 other loan officers. You got a couple processors and teammates in your branch. You're doing 55 million in production and you're working 32 hours a week. How do you define success other than being the most efficient? What really matters to you in terms of your overall life, your branch, your business? What is your fork in the ground?
From a branch standpoint is, I guess what I'm really proud of is how many loan officers we still have with us that made it through the last few years.
Yep.
And humble brag, we won, so was it 2023 Branch of the Year?
Yes.
And that was the coolest thing. I would rather win Branch of the Year award than me do 500 million in production, because it got to be a we did it moment. we have all battled for so long, especially 22, and the win branch of the year in 23 was just so awesome. So for me, my success going forward is I've made President's Club or Chairman's Club all 10 years I've been at Guild. I got to continue that streak. I told my wife that I might have to put in a few more hours because I got to get that Chairman's Club this year instead of the President's Club, and I'm slightly behind it, but we're coming. But my biggest thing will be I would love to make President's Club as a branch manager just to say we did it.
Yeah.
And then I want to have as many loan officers as I can make the club. That's really all I care about is how many of them can make it and how can we do it together. And then the rest all works itself out.
So let's talk about a final thought here about expansion. So you said, I might have to put in some extra hours. I want to push it up to that next level. I think President's Club is 60 million purchase. Is that correct?
No, that's Chairman's.
Chairman's, I mean, sorry. But
President's
that's
30
your
or
goal.
40.
Your goal, you're going for 60 million purchase. So you being a trust builder technician, how do you stand in your strength, doing what you're doing, and amp it up that extra 10, 15% growth? What is going to be your strategy to do that?
I'm breaking it down into, and I've got it written down somewhere. I've got it of how many client appointments I think I need to have in order to have that many closings. So to me, it's literally all about how many clients can I have that pre-approval. You call it a pre-approved meeting, but I'm like, it's really not a pre-approved meeting. We've already pre-approved, and this is like going over their pre-approval. This is like reviewing your pre-approval. How many of those do I need to have to hit my closing goal? And I've done an okay job tracking it over the years, but I'm trying to get really good at exactly tracking that. Because 40 or 50% of those close.
Yep.
If they've gone through all the process, we've taken their app, we've got their documents, they come in and sit with me, at least 50% of those in most cases are going to turn into a closing at some point. So I really just got to find out how many of those meetings I need to have.
So do you believe you need more realtor partners to do that, more referral sources?
It would probably be a good idea if I would expand a little bit. That's my struggle. but my technician trust builders, I'm like, well, why can't I just go take the realtors I already know and do one or two more with them together?
Because you're trying to squeeze blood out of a beet. There's only so much. Amir Syed had this joke about all of you trust builders. Like you grab your three realtors and you hanging them upside down over the balcony and you're shaking them as if you're going to get another deal or two out of them. Like you just need to go meet 5 more friends, Chantry. Seriously, 5.
I can do that.
So if you're going to meet 5 and you know that your technical abilities are what help other people win, and this is where you bring value, how can you use your trust builder to get introduced or meet those people?
Number one is take my favorite agent list and call them and say, I've got to add, I just barely was on a coaching call. I'm going to do this. I've got to add 5 more cool realtors that I would like working with as much as I like working with you.
Yep.
Who do you know that might be a good fit for me?
Yep.
And all my realtors, actually, the ones that like us, this isn't mine. This is like just in general. They like me. We do business together. They respect me. I respect them. They're going to be pumped to give me the name of somebody. I think a lot of us think, well, the realtors are thinking that if we're asking for more business, they're not doing enough. Honestly, I think the realtors will be fired up to give me a name of somebody because they know they're helping me out. And then if I get the name of somebody, what I need to do is get them. I think it was somebody on one of your podcasts. It was really good, but get them to give me a chance to show how we work and go over like, here's what our loan process is. Here's what we're going to do. And I need you to be in that first meeting so you can see how we operate and see if we're a good fit. So I think if I just get a chance, we'll put them through the process and win them over.
Fantastic. I believe that you will get your 5 pretty easily because you see the road. So that's 2 things. Meet 5 new friends, get referred those people because trust builders get referred. It's not like you're going to want to go cold call. It's not like you're going to want to go network. It's not like you're going to go get on social media. You're going to call 5 people that are rad and ask them for referrals. And like you said, you believe that you've loved on them and you've made deposits in the bank, that they would be excited to help you. It just didn't occur to you to call with that specific ask. Second thing is what realtors need to focus on is understanding how powerful that pre-approval meeting is. You could call it a pre-purchase consult. I've heard people say that. Yeah. I think that's Denise Donahue's language. I don't know what Jason Jacobs calls it because he talks all about winning in a competitive market and how to strategically write the most competitive offer and what leverage you have to pull. But thinking about how you brand that, Brendan Donaldson calls it his Smart Start meeting. But branding that to a realtor to say, you know what the stat is? 1 out of every 2 people that sit in my office, belly to belly, and I advise them and I educate them and I create urgency and I get heart to heart with them and I sell home ownership, 1 out of 2 will be a paycheck in your pocket. So if all you wanted to do is close 2 extra deals this summer, how can we get 4 meetings in my office in the month of June?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've noticed that you use the scripting. We've found that. And I really like that knowledge, which is like, and looking at all the data, and I've been coached for 7 years and I have dashboards for days. I track everything. Here's what we found. We found that for every 2 meetings, 1 generally is closing. So how can we get people to the meeting? And if realtors start referring you strongly and selling your pre-purchase consult or your Smart Start, already it's much easier to convert people into that meeting that works on your calendar, right? And within your time blocks.
And a lot of times that, you said it brilliantly, by the way, but a lot of times that's the first time the realtor's met with that customer. So it gives me a massive opportunity to upsell the agent.
Absolutely.
And Jason kills it. I love Jason's podcast on that because he makes a big deal out of the agent. He does Zoom, which I think is great. I actually think in some ways Zoom is harder because I can be a little bit less prepared and organized for an in-person meeting because I can kind of just go with the flow. I think a Zoom, you got to be a little more dialed.
Yep.
So if you're dialed and you can get an agent to that meeting, and Jason does the best job I've heard of like selling how cool it is that realtor showed up because most agents don't.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you're in a small market. You're going for $60 million purchase. You're keeping your hours in check. I know you're a devoted, dedicated father, leader, and coach. Chantry, is there any final words that you want to leave for helping people become rainmakers?
Really dig deep and go like, what are my strengths? I think before, I can't remember if we did this on air, but like your Jackie that works for you that I'm coaching, she is like a master technician. And she's so likable and so great, and she's going to kill it for him. But she doesn't ever show the world that. She doesn't ever show the agents. And so I think it's just whatever is like really your specialty, whatever you can like really dial in on, you have to find ways to I guess, humble brag or just show what your skill level is.
And don't give that part up. This is the 20% that move the needle, right? 20% of your input creates 80% of your output. And so for you, getting out of that pre-approval meeting where you had your hands in the conversion, in the relationship building, in the trust building, in the education, getting out of that not only made you lose your joy because you weren't in the seat, shooting the hoops, dunking the ball, or shooting the guy if you're a Navy SEAL. But it should be the last thing you delegate, right? So anyway, this has been a phenomenal conversation because it's super tactical. And Chantry, if people can't tell, you're just one of the most approachable, genuine, honest, like good dudes. And you've been that way every day since I've met you. It's just a true joy to be on the same team. And thank you for coaching. Thank you for wanting to pay it forward and give back and help people in the way that you've been helped. Because like for me as a manager, having one of my girls coached by you, it's just such a gift. And I'm so excited for Jackie that you're her coach. So thank you for this time and thanks for being you.
Thanks for having me.